Old School Bodybuilding Clothing Company. If it's been 3.5 hours since you last ate protein and now you're starting to freak out, you are old school. If watching someone sit on a hammer machine for 5 minutes between sets playing with their phone pisses you off, you are definitely old school. OSBBC.com for the hardest training athletes.
I haven't seen the sun in a fucking week and a half. Look! It just came out! Hey, look at that!
I love it!
Welcome back to After Hours. Yes, I'm Dave Palumbo, and yes, I had surgery last Wednesday and had my thyroid removed, and I am back. John, Greg, a lot of people have been asking me, how do you do it? How do you back in action already? To be honest with you, I don't think I was back in action the day after surgery. Even the day of surgery, I was in action. So I still did a video. So I don't believe in going down for the count, you know?
Why cut back?
Right.
Why
I don't like to milk it, you know.
Yeah, I think it's the anesthesia that had you fucking chigad, for that 24 hours. You know what I mean? Even me, I can't clear my head with stuff like that. I'm hyper.
I was a little nervous about the fact that maybe I would start bleeding because I had some bleeding issues during the surgery of them stopping it. But once I got through that first 2 days, I kind of was like, all right, I'm not going to bleed now. And I really didn't feel bad, although I feel fatigued at the end of the day, which I think has a lot to do more with the anesthesia getting out of my body than it actually does with the surgery, to be honest with you, because it wasn't a very invasive surgery, although, removing your thyroid is removing your thyroid. It is what it is, plus the lymph nodes.
It was the 5 hours on the table that did you in.
Yeah.
Do you think that, maybe it was the supplements that you take, and it caused the bleed? Because I had a lot of...
I stopped them, Greg, like 3 weeks before because I know that they caused bleeding. But I don't know. I just have thin blood, which is a good thing in terms of you don't clot, in terms of throwing a clot, and dying from that, somewhere. But it's hard when they're doing surgery. A lot of times, it's hard to you have to really cauterize every single little bleeder in me because otherwise. And remember, the thyroid gland is a very, very vascular gland. It's not like it's got one blood vessel to it. You clip off and you're done. It's all over. It's like taking gyno out, John. You remember. That's why I had a problem when Dr. Blau removed my gyno years ago, because also very vascular organ with a big, huge blood supply to it. So that was that thing.
I took my own stitches out. He was brutal, Dr. Blau.
Oh yeah, when he put that,
starts ripping shit out like it's like not even attached.
Yeah, don't worry, because it's so easy for him. He thinks like it's not a big deal,
I know.
John, the best part of you getting your bitch stitch or whatever it was removed was watching you snore on a fucking thing.
A lot of people thought it was me doing commentary while he was actually snoring,
Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. It was like watching him go in the bed. He was almost like the Three Stooges. Remember Curly and the Three Stooges? He was like...
the part that really fatigued me the most, believe it or not, is when they put when you get anything done to your neck, like the thyroid, they put a special breathing tube down your throat with like sensors on it that can sense the nerve that goes. They don't want to cut your vocal cord nerve, otherwise you can't speak. So they put this special sensor breathing tube down, and then they put these supposed needles in your fingers. Now I don't know. I was asleep, and they could actually test to see if the nerve is firing properly. Well, when I woke up, my bicep, and they still hurt, my bicep tendons, how when you do a really hard workout for the first time, bicep workout, you sore right in here? Yeah. I had so much soreness, and I felt like I did 100 sets of bicep curls. And it lasted for seriously 4 or 5 days. It's still not perfect. I swear that I got the best bicep workout of all time. I think my arms grew 2 inches from the surgery.
Maybe you're onto something.
Yeah,
I don't think they did that to me, Dave, because see, with me, not only did they do the 2 lymph nodes from behind my ear all the way to my Adam's apple, my cut, but they went down my throat and they had to take out muscles that were in my throat. Like one was, I had both my tonsils removed, and
Yeah.
as an adult, that's dangerous.
Yeah.
And then all that meat inside there, like my little uvula, the punching bag,
uvula
is no longer in the middle of my throat. It's to the right,
Oh.
which is weird. Like if I went and screamed, you'd be like, "Wait, what the fuck is that?"
Did you say your penis goes to the right
Punching
too?
bag's to the right.
I thought your penis goes to the right too, doesn't it a little bit? Now you're
Goes
even.
straight up. But yeah, so but with me, and that's why I had to bear. I bled. I had a the wicked bleeding, which almost killed me, and I was hospitalized and had to have surgery again.
Well, think about how vascular what they would do when they would cut muscle out. Muscle is the most vascular organ,
in your fucking throat,
Yeah.
and they can't stitch that. They have to cauterize everything.
They must have done a
You know
good
what I mean?
job because you still got a big mouth, and I can't tell any difference in your voice. So.
It's true.
So here we are, a bunch of old men talking about our fucking cancer.
Yeah, that's right. Hopefully, John, you never have to join that conversation. I hope.
Yeah, I hopefully, but in 48 hours, I've been on 2 podcasts with 2 cancer survivors. So, I got Cito on the other one,
Right.
you, a double, and then now Valentino. Who else do we have? I mean,
Look,
Jimmy's got no teeth left.
Let me give you the good statistic, John. We've all beaten it so far, so that's good. That
Right,
means
we're
that
all
we're
here
tough
to
son of a
beat.
bitches,
That's right.
If we would have if you would have said, hey, I was on a million podcasts and everyone's dead of cancer, that would have been a bad sign, John.
Unbelievable.
I don't want to say that, and I don't want to jinx
No,
anybody else.
no.
Jesus.
Now, for those of you who've been asking me,
do you think this is? I sort of brought this up on the other podcast with you. Do you think this is, because I want Gregg's opinion too? Do you think this is abnormal for a general slice of the population, or do you think we are showing representing a higher number of cancer cases per capita?
I think that we see ourselves as almost invincible because we eat well, we take care of ourselves, we work out, so we think we're kind of immune from what the general public gets, because we don't really get there's not, if you're in shape, you're not going to probably get type 2 diabetes unless it runs in your family. You're not going to have cholesterol problems unless it runs in your family, because we do eat right and take care of ourselves. So you think that we're kind of immune from everything, but the truth is, when you hit a certain age, your genetic time clock, I always say, clicks to that last click, and all of a sudden something starts going wrong in your body, and that's why we can't keep our head in the sand with this. We have to kind of keep on top of all this, because I know I have cancer running in my family. My mother didn't have thyroid cancer that I know of, but she did have a thyroid issue. But I have other people in my family that did. So
did my mother.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Your mother and my mother are exactly alike. My mother had thyroid issues.
Yeah.
And my mother died of pancreas cancer,
wow.
like your mother.
We're like brothers, and then we both had our surgery on the same day of the year, March 17th.
Right,
so.
and throats. Mine was inside the throat and everything else, but we still had. Dude, when they told me I had cancer, I was like,
yeah,
what?
Me too. Believe me, me too. Me too.
What's that feel like when they tell you that?
I got to be honest with you. I'll let Gregg answer, but I would be way more scared if I had gotten his diagnosis, because it was a little more diffuse, whereas thyroid cancer is pretty well, established that they can kind of take care of it with the radioactive iodine and removal. And his was a little bit, I would have to imagine yours was a little scary when they told you that, Gregg, right?
Oh, yeah, because I was like, whoa, wait, what? Cancer? And then I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to beat this shit, and then, they start telling you what they have to do. And, I had a lot of shit taken out of my throat. I don't know how long I was in surgery. It was 6 to 8 hours. But then I had to stay in the hospital because, they're afraid of bleeding because it's in your throat. I had cancer down my throat.
And you had it at the pinnacle of the whole COVID thing. That was going on.
God. The day they shut everything down, March 17th of 2000 is the day I was in Mount Sinai. But I also had 3 surgeries. The first one was February 13th. They botched it. They didn't take the whole thing out. They made a mistake. They thought they got it all, and they were like, oh, shit, we got to go right back in there. So I went from February 13th for the botch, then in Mount Sinai and smack in the middle of Manhattan, March 17th, and then 1 week later, March 24th, is when I was drowning in my blood.
Wow.
And they had to actually do an emergency surgery on me then. You know what I mean? And I was in the hospital for 5 days. I come out 2 days later and back in the hospital, and that's when they had me tied to the bed.
That's not fun when you got to go back and you don't feel good. Luckily, I was done. I got out. I was done. And that's it. And I pray to the whatever is up there, God, whatever you want to call it. I pray every day that I'm done. That they got it all. But you never know.
Too.
You never know.
Me too. But the thing that scared me the worst is the fact that I woke up during the surgery. You know what I mean? I was awake. I was paralyzed. You're laying there because, they knock you out and then they paralyze you so that they can work on you. And I woke up and I was wide awake. I mean, it wasn't like I was dreaming. I was wide awake and I was paralyzed. I could not move. I could only move my eyeballs. That's it. And thank God, maybe they saw it. I don't know. I heard the nurses say my knee was a little bit hanging off the gurney. And I heard the one nurse say, his leg is off the gurney. It's moving. She goes, he ain't moving. He ain't going nowhere. I got him paralyzed. And I'm like, and I'm hearing that shit. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And that was probably the
John,
scariest.
he's doing, like with what's his name? Stephen Hawking. He's like blinking his eyes. Like he's trying to do Morse code with his eyes to tell them, I'm fucking awake.
How must that feel if you're like paralyzed, right? Your eyes are closed. You hear everything. You're totally cerebrally cognizant of everything except your body is done. So, and you want to scream. You want to move something.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that, man? That's got to be the most craziest thing.
That was more scary to me than the cancer. I swear to God, that was more scary. Because there's horror stories. You could actually go on YouTube and find horror stories about people who had surgeries, had organs removed, and they were awake. They could actually feel them cutting the organ.
You didn't feel anything though, right?
No, because thank God, I guess they might have saw I was awake because my eyes were looking around or whatever, and then they put me. I guess I'm assuming, but I know I went back to sleep, and then next thing I know, I wake up and I'm tied down to the bed, in ICU, COVID ICU, all right, and I'm tied down. I got the tubes down my throat. And I'm trying to motion to them, please get these tubes out of my throat, And they're like, no, we're not getting the tubes out of your throat. You just lay there. They weren't very nice to me, to be honest with you. And all of a sudden, God, I swear, people out there, maybe they don't believe in God or whatever, but I do. And I was praying and I said, please, God, help me, help them take these tubes out. They're going to kill me in here. And the next thing I know, about 4 or 5 minutes later, I choked, like I was gagging because the tubes make you feel like you're going to throw up. And I didn't throw up, but I guess I sat up, and next thing I know, I'm off the bed. I'm like, oh, shit, I'm off the fucking bed. I must have gagged like this and went, and pulled the fucking tubes out, to snap the reins. And I'm off the bed, and I said, oh, shit, I could hear them coming. So I pulled the tubes out, and I threw them on the ground. And then when they came in, I go, you motherfuckers, I can breathe. I can breathe. I'm like, look. And I said, don't you dare put that thing back in me. And they're like, okay. And then I was.
Doesn't that sound like my dad would have go through something like that?
Listen.
My dad when he had his my dad when he had his, I think it was his hip surgery. He had one of his hip replacements. They found him in the hallway doing the Swiss Army crawl, down the hallway, thinking he was in Korea. He thought he was in the Korean War. They're like,
oh my God.
And this is before he was he wasn't senile. He was in his 60s at this point. I'm like, Dad, how the heck did you get out of bed? He goes, I don't know. He goes,
but at least he could move. At least he could move. Greg's freaking paralyzed. Yeah. Imagine him sitting there, and he's hearing the nurses say, "We're losing him." And then they're saying he's dead, and he's like, "No, I'm not. I'm alive." And he can't say anything. He's in the dark, and he can't say anything. Yeah, no, I'm alive. I'm alive. And then they come to find out they're talking about the guy in the next bed. Yeah. He doesn't know.
No, you know what the worst was, John? I'm going to tell you what the worst part was. I was laying there, and I was fucking tied down and everything, and I'm freaking out because you don't like to be tied down. You know what I mean? If you told me you can't breathe,
I think Big Lenny likes to be.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a different story. he might have liked it because he had this big black nurse, right? Oh my God, that's
he
so
would have loved
racist.
it.
Well, anyway, she was this big black nurse. She looked like Mrs. Clump, and she kept fucking, and she was humming.
That's racist.
And I'm like, she's fucking humming, and I'm like, I'm over here thinking in my head, you motherfucker. I mean, I'm over here like dying. I'm tied to a bed, and you're humming. And I kept motioning to her, like with my hands like this.
She's like, that's right. I got the racist Italian here. I'll make him suffer a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, she didn't give two shits. Dude,
and she's humming Swing Low, Sweet Chariot.
That's great. That's great. Swing Low. You're dead now, motherfucker. But anyway, she's doing the death march, that you hear.
Right.
I
get this kitty motherfucker.
Anyway, so, and I'm motioning to her, and she's like, what's the matter, baby? And I'm like, and she's like, you want them tubes taken out of your throat. And I'm like, and she's like, we can't do that, And then she'll ask me questions. Okay, now you live in, and she gives my address. And I can't speak. She's just like, nod your head. And I'm like, and she's putting all this shit in the computer. I'm like, this is like fucking a nightmare, And it's when she left the room, I had all these nurses in and out, and nobody would help me. Nobody gave two shits. And then I fucking, after I got up, they were all like, holy shit. They all come running in and they told me I told them I'm getting the fuck out of here. And they go, don't go nowhere. I had the tube tied to my dick in the dick.
Yeah, you would have.
And they're like, you don't want to pull that one out. They said that you can't pull up because there's it goes in and then there's like a balloon or something,
Yeah.
Oh.
And I'm like, well, pull that fucking thing out of me right now. I don't want no tube, in my dick. And they pulled it out. Of course, you piss at the motherfucker when they pull it out. And the piss feels like you're giving birth out of your penis. I had gonorrhea, bro,
now you know what women
years
go through.
ago, and my dad was worse than my gonorrhea.
That's I had that happen. Well, I can attest to that.
Yeah.
It's that first piss after they take that tube out, it's like
razor
you gotta
blades.
talk yourself into that because you let that first drop out, and it's like somebody steal wool up there with a fucking.
We really sound like a bunch of
say
old men. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. This is what, guys. This is what you got to look forward to when you get a little older. Things go wrong. I want to
pissing razor blades, but I was pissing samurai swords, man.
Yeah.
That shit was, and the worst part was I pissed all over myself, and I told the nurse, I gotta, because I can't clean myself. You're laying in this fucking gurney. It should. Well, all right, we'll get you in a couple minutes. And no shit, a half hour later, I'm laying in like fucking cold piss. And then that's when they came in. And then another nurse comes in to take my blood, and she fucking like this. Ah! And she was one of them,
Speaking of
put
taking
the lime
blood,
in the coconut.
Every time I don't know why I don't keep my mouth shut. They go to take my blood or they put an IV in, and I tell them, look. I said, a lot of people have been having problems lately. I know I look like I have very good veins, but they squiggle. If you can see, they're starting to heal up, but I have all these bruises all over my arm because every time I open my big mouth, they're like, oh, I'm an expert. I've been doing this 25 years. Boom, they miss again. They're like, I don't know how I missed.
They don't know the comb. They don't know the comb trick.
Yeah, you got to hold the vein in place.
You got to use a comb. You put a comb down the vein, and that makes it stick between the teeth of the comb. And then
I didn't even know that. That's a John Romano
That's all I need. This chick didn't give a shit if she hit it or not.
Yeah.
She went like this, bang. And I told her, listen, man, I'm a pin cushion. I'm used to needles. And that shit fucking hurt me like I never,
Yeah.
And she was like, put the lime in the coconut, And she didn't want to hear a fucking word I had to say.
You know what the truth is? I'm sure when guys like us that are like, these like very self-reliant, people that don't like to, depend on anyone. When we get into the hospital, we're like the biggest babies. And these nurses are like, what a pain in the ass I got here. You know what I mean?
That's what we are.
We are really paid because we're not used to like people doing stuff for us. So we're like complete babies about it when we get sick. We're great every other time of the year, but we get sick and we're like little kids all of a sudden. We regress. And so these nurses become like our parents almost like that. And they got to treat you like you're 5 years old almost. And that's exactly what the case is.
I don't have that experience.
You've never been in the hospital. You don't have anything wrong with you.
You're lucky.
Well, one time I was getting blood taken, and the phlebotomist kept missing the fucking vein. I don't know, like you, I don't know how you can miss that fucking vein. His third one, he went to me and give me that fucking thing, and I did it myself. And he's standing there like that, like he's a little guy. Yeah. And he goes, I never saw anybody do that in my life. Wait, you never had an IV
I'll
drug?
give you one better. Listen to this. My girlfriend's a licensed phlebotomist.
Oh, I didn't know that.
She faints when she sees blood. And so she went to school for it and everything, never worked a day in her life as a phlebotomist, the idiot. And then one time she went to get a shot at her doctor's office. And when the doctor gave her a shot, she fainted and hit the wall like this, and then went straight down. And there was a streak of makeup like this that went right down. She's fucking nuts.
Well,
So she's a phlebotomist who doesn't like blood.
But she doesn't work. She doesn't do it.
She faints. She faints. If you gave her a shot, she faints.
She doesn't do it, he says. She's licensed, but she doesn't do it.
But why would you pursue that line of work to begin with?
She's fucking nuts.
It's a good job. That's why.
She's fucking nuts.
It's a good job.
She thought she'd be able to do. She's from the ghetto. When I met her and everything, and she thought, okay, it's a good way to get out of the ghetto. You work in the medical industry. She figured, okay, big deal. When I got to take people's blood, but she couldn't do it. Dude, you would never want her taking your blood ever.
Didn't you tell me? And I don't want to say if I'm mistaken by the story. I don't know if this was a joke you said or it's true. Didn't you meet her like at a fast food place or something like that? She was working at
Wendy's.
Oh, it was that? Okay, I didn't make that up then. Okay.
It was Wendy's.
The drive-through, right? You said you met her?
Yup. It's a drive-through.
How old was she when you met her?
Well, I've been with her. She's 34. She just turned 34 in March. I got Schwarzenegger's son to kiss her for her birthday. That was the biggest thing. Patrick. She's 34. I met her when she was like 18. So
yeah, I thought so. I thought she was a teenager when you met her. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's a true story.
I'm older than her mother by 7 years.
Wow, that's a true story, though. You did meet her at Wendy's. I thought you said that once before.
Yeah, Wendy's, yeah.
Good story. All right, let's talk about Andy Hammond for a minute, because we all knew Andy very well, and unfortunately, the official cause of death was put out. His son texted me 2 days ago and said that it was a pulmonary embolism. Now, he had an infection of his bursa sac of his elbow, and he had surgery 2 days prior on that to drain it, I guess. And whenever you have infected material, there's always the concern that the affected material can break off into the bloodstream, and if it goes to your lungs, you can get a pulmonary embolism and die. I mean, that's a very real reality to this stuff, and that's why it's important that if you have an infection to address it right away and not wait till it gets to the point, where it could enter the bloodstream. Evidently, that's what happened. It sounds almost like unbelievable, because the guy was a healthy guy and he took care of himself, and you don't think you're going to have something like that happen, but that's what they're saying the cause of death is, and it's super, super sad. Now, the only good note is he probably died instantly, so there was no pain or suffering involved. He probably didn't even know what happened, and in that sense, if you got to go a certain way, that's the way to go for sure. He had a smile on his face. They said they were just goofing around with him like 15 minutes before or something like that. So, but obviously he's going to be greatly missed, not only by his family, but by the whole community, because he was really a personality in the bodybuilding world that everyone knew and everyone loved this guy. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say a bad thing about Andy Hammond. And that's a rarity in our sport, because we've been bad-mouthed to death. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that guy's not a good guy,
People are going to start... People are freaking out because you just fucked up their whole shit, because they all thought this, another one with the kidney failure and the liver failure, another one who had a heart attack from steroids. You know what? Maybe he shot his elbow with steroids and the fucking, he caught an infection, because people fucking love a good disaster. You know what I mean? They like that shit.
Right. No.
But he didn't die.
How did it actually happen, Dave? What was he doing? How did it
I think they were just good. They were making videos and sending them to me earlier in the day. I had literally been talking to him early in the day via, he's been sending some videos, and they left the room for a minute. They came back in, and that was it. I mean, he was. That's it. He was out, and no, they called an ambulance. I guess they, tried CPR, and when you get a pulmonary embolism, and it's a good one, where they really, blocks circulation, you die pretty quickly, and there's nothing really that can be done. And what I mean?
Is that like a fucking, not like a cyst like we get?
An embolism, it's like a clot that moves. That's what an embolism is.
No, but what caused it though? Like what?
Because something broke off from the infected material, I guess, in his elbow and entered the bloodstream, which we would call clot, right? And then the clot moved, which is an embolism, and then it lodges itself in the small vessels in your lungs. If the lungs can't become oxygenated, and then you die, basically, So
do you suffocate, or is it just pass out?
Lack of blood supply to the brain, and because remember the lungs, the blood goes to the lungs, they become oxygenated, then that oxygenated blood goes back to the heart, and then the heart circulates it to the brain and the rest of the body. If you can't get oxygenated blood up there to your brain, I don't have to tell you what happens.
So that one little clot can shut down both lungs?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Pretty quickly.
Dave, my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, had that widowmaker aneurysm, where the aorta fucking explodes.
Yeah, dissecting aneurysm, aorta, yeah. That's very dangerous.
I
have an enlarged aorta. That's what they're always checking every year because they don't want to make sure it's not getting bigger, because if it is, then I have to get it fixed, which is not something you want to do, obviously, because they got to, that's open heart surgery.
Usually you get that, and it's like 1 in a million lits. Usually you hit like
Chris Dim had that happen to him. You remember? He was in the gym and his aorta exploded. How he lived through it, I have no idea. And that was... He survived that and was fine after that. They fixed it and he competed after that. He didn't get paralyzed until they tried to fix, because he also had a descending aorta that was getting enlarged. They went in there to fix that. That's when he got paralyzed. But that first one, he survived that. It's a miracle that he did.
That was incredible.
Yeah.
They said my brother-in-law was sitting they had him in the emergency room. The ambulance came, took him to the emergency room. And they had him in there for 6 hours before they even put him in surgery, which is unheard of. He's like a miracle. That guy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
You know what I mean? And he's fine. But let me ask you a question. With Chris Dim, he had, what is this a bodybuilding thing with this giant aorta shit?
No, I think there's a genetic weakening there. Now, obviously, if you have high blood pressure, that could cause it. But think about it. I didn't get my enlarged aorta until after I stopped competing. I was downsized. My blood pressure was controlled. I'm not on any anabolics or anything like that. So who knows? Once again, genetic time clock. Maybe other people in my family had it and didn't even know about it. I just happened to find it because I went for a routine calcium score, a cardiac CT scan, just to see how my calcium deposits in my vessels were. They're like, good news, you got 0 calcium deposits, but you got an enlarged aorta. And then when I went a year later to check the aorta, that's when they found the thyroid nodule. So think about this whole chain of events. I never would have found the thyroid cancer, okay, had I not gotten the enlarged aorta, had I not had decided to just check my coronary arteries. So that's why it's important that you get these scans, because you never know what's going to pop up. Think about it. I have a lymph node.
If you never had that scan and never found it, what would your next symptom have been if you didn't discover?
Who knows? Who knows? Because my thyroid cancer nodule was buried in my thyroid. It wasn't like superficial where you could actually palpate it on the outside. So how big would it have had to gotten before someone would have noticed that I had something sticking out of my neck? And it's very low down, so it's not as high up as people think. You wouldn't even notice it. So it might have tripled, quadrupled in size before I caught it, and who knows where it would have spread to by then. And luckily, thyroid, even when it spreads, is pretty curable. But it would have been a lot scarier at that point.
So if you didn't get your calcium checked, your calcium scores,
I wouldn't have known about the aorta or my thyroid.
Well, what are they doing for the aorta?
They just monitor it every year. They just make sure it doesn't get bigger. Okay, so mine actually got smaller. I don't know how, but unless they just measured wrong, but they got smaller from last year.
They monitor it every year, but they don't give you no medicine for that.
There's nothing they can do for it. They don't even know what causes it in a lot of people. Who knows? I don't know what causes it. They check what they did was they checked the aorta, and then they actually wanted to check my valve, my aortic valve, to make sure the valve was working well. That was a second test. They did an ultrasound. That's when they caught the thyroid, actually. So
oh shit!
It was actually on the aortic valve check that they did that they caught that. It wasn't even. And you know what the funny thing is? the nodule size was so small that theoretically the radiologist didn't even have to report it, because if it's under a centimeter, they don't even report those, because tons of people have nodules on their thyroids. This guy just happened to decide to notate it for some reason. I saw it, and being the neurotic that I am, thank God, I said I'm getting an ultrasound just to check it out, right? Why not? And what's the big deal, you know? And if I did, because I could have just ignored it. I could have said, it's small, who cares? People get these all the time. But anyway, getting back to Andy, the bottom line message here is what we've been discussing for the last, whatever it is, 40 minutes, is that you never know when it's your time or what's going to happen. So number one, enjoy your life, but also don't enjoy your life, with your head in the sand. Make sure you get your checks, okay, on a regular basis, especially after 40 years old, because that's when shit goes wrong. We all know that. And if you do that, at least you can have some, semblance of, or some at least feeling, hey, you know what? I did everything I could do. I get my blood work done once a year. I got my heart scanned. If everyone hasn't gone out there and gotten a cardiac CT scan, it's so non-invasive. It takes 5 minutes just to check your coronary arteries. Because I know a lot of people. Look, Mel Chansey went for one of those scans right out here by my house here, because he lives not too far. And they found a blockage, and he got a stent put in there. And you know what? His dad died of a heart attack. It could have been him next had he not gotten that scan done. So, there's a reason why you got to check these things out, because we are, unfortunately, victims to our genetics ultimately, and our, of what we've inherited from our parents and grandparents, et cetera, et cetera. So you got to check these things out, even if you take great care of yourself.
Is a calcium scan? Is that is that the thing where they go like this on your fucking, with the
No,
thing?
they can do that for your carotids, but for your heart, they do it. It's a CT scan basically. I'm not sure if that one uses. I don't think that one uses contrast. They literally put you in there for 5 minutes. They get a scan and they can see how much calcium you have deposited.
But do you have to drink shit and everything?
No, you don't do anything. You don't drink anything. They just scan you. Because
I went to some shit, and
you should do it just to check it out to see if you have any blockages. It doesn't hurt. It takes 5 minutes.
Right. That's crazy. I mean, especially guys watching this don't realize. They think we're a bunch of fucking old men. I read some of the comments. Some people love us. Some people think, they're fucking old. But you guys don't realize. By the way, there's a guy who's a big fan of this show. Jay Carlson, if you're watching. I saw him the other day. And he was, these guys, they love us, so we're going to give them props.
Well, you know what, Greg? You can mention one name. Dallas McCarver, 26 years old, had a blockage, 90% blockage in his coronary artery.
What I was trying to tell you is, when we talk about shit, like even Jay was saying to me, I remember Dave Palumbo, I used to see him in the gym. He was so huge. And I tell everybody, yeah, but he's smart now. Because Dave, just like me, I was 278 at fucking 5'6". I know. But I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. Tying my shoes, I almost fainted. You'd lean over to tie your shoe, and you're like, whoa. You know what I mean? But they don't realize you could be huge right now. I could go out and fucking take all this shit and get jacked all over again because I respond easily. But I don't want to die, and I don't give a shit about being jacked like that anymore. I'd rather be.
Greg, I always tell people there's no 80-year-old 300 pounder.
Thank you. I say the same shit. You may see some 80-year-old guy who has little muscles to him, and he could stand and go, "Oh, look at the muscles on this little 80-year-old man," but he ain't big, because nobody lives that big. And all these guys that think, I'd rather live as a lion, than live as a lamb, or whatever the fuck that saying is. And I'm like,
bullshit.
Fuck you. You say that shit until you're on your fucking deathbed in the hospital and you're fucked up because your liver fails, your kidneys have failed, everything else is failing.
Not to interrupt you, but I'm going to interrupt you because we got to get some humor injected into this show. So Mr. G sends me this email, John. I don't even know where he is. He's been texting me. I sent him the link, but I got to read this email to you. Mr. G's training. It's called Mr. G's Week 1 promo training for event. I'm assuming that's the fight between him and Big Lenny. Yes. He writes, Frankie Edgar and Mr. G at Nick Cantone MMA. Every Saturday, a lot of top pro UFC fighters come and train and spar. Here's the fight promo. This is his fight.
But wait, listen to how doubly doubly nebulous that statement is. A lot of top MMA guys.
I think it is. I think it actually is a top MMA gym. But
how do you qualify?
Well, he said Frankie Edgar.
Yeah. Here, hold on. So here's his promo for the fight. He's billed it already himself. We don't even need a promoter. Internet bully MMA challenge. He's calling it. Here's his name. He's given himself his own nickname. Yukon Mr. G Cornelius versus Big Bully Lenny the Abominable.
They're both abominable. They're both snowmen.
He's like, this past week, I've done 7 hours of Muay Thai, 7 hours of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, 3 weight training days, 10 hours of cardio, running, and elliptical. And he sent me a picture. I don't know. Of him.
By the way, he texted me the other day, and he said one of those guys, their daughters was won the Golden Gloves, and they know that my daughter's a fighter too. They're like, oh, maybe Valentino's daughter. I told them, listen, first of all, I'll ask my daughter. My daughter's like, I don't want any part of your book. My daughter hates anything I do, like bodybuilding, all that.
Right.
She's like, fuck that shit.
But plus, money talks, Greg.
Well, maybe money she would do it. My daughter does it all. Muay Thai, fucking, and she does the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and my daughter also was a bare knuckle fighter. So if this guy's daughter was a boxer, but my daughter ain't gonna do it. I can tell you that right now.
Something tells me Greg's daughter is not afraid to phlebotomize blood, John.
No, she'll drop. My friend was over the house the other day, who's a jiu-jitsu fighter, and he's 6'3", 6'4", and he's a monster. I mean, he's like 280 pounds. And my daughter's like, we should go roll right now. And my daughter starts getting into fucking jiu-jitsu.
If you don't know what roll means, you shouldn't be messing around with Greg's daughter,
my daughter's 5'2".
Rolling has nothing to do with sex, by the way. It's a fight term.
That's what jiu-jitsu wrestling is called.
The jiu-jitsu term is, dude, you want to roll? You know what I mean? Like they roll, and my friend's like, yeah, we should fucking, because my friend rolls with her sometimes.
Yeah.
And they were going to do it right in the house in the living room, and I'm like, get the fuck out.
Yeah, you break out your whole house. Let me ask you a question.
My fucking daughter around in my house.
Let me ask you a question about your daughter.
Yeah.
She's obviously a good fighter, and she obviously enjoys the whole sport. Does she want to go to the professional ranks where she's trying to compete for money? Is that what her goal is, or she just likes doing it?
She fights in tournaments for the fun of it. Okay, like she fucking fought bare knuckles. She never lost.
Why wouldn't she try to make some money from it, Greg, if she's good?
Because she does it more for
therapy.
Just like how many bodybuilders do we know that'll never compete, never step on stage? When I was in Gold's Gym, back even in the early 80s, there were guys walking around super jacked that never competed, but they enjoy bodybuilding. Like her passion is to just to really get good at that. See, my daughter won most athletic girl in school, and she played varsity lacrosse from 8th grade, and she played varsity basketball from 8th grade. She jousted and all that shit. So she was super athlete. She likes like that kind of sports. Like,
right, but don't you sit her down and say, look, you actually are good at this. You could actually make good money doing this because there's not that many great women out there. If you get one good fight, you knock one good girl out, you're going to make $1 million.
You know what you should do? You need a niche. And what your niche should be is she should only book fights with transgender athletes.
Right, fight the guys, exactly.
And her mission is to kick the shit out of them. So she's going to the federation won't keep them out of the sport. She's going to keep them
right, like she's like the Terminator.
Going to fucking annihilate them all. She would do it.
She has a friend who's a female to male transgender, and that friend is the boyfriend now of my daughter's what they call that big, what do you call that shit when you go to college and your sorority sister?
Oh, like a big sister?
They have a big, whatever that big bullshit is. And they were staying over the house. So I had this guy at the house, and I'm like, holy shit, and the guy, I guess, knows me from the internet, You know what I mean? He wanted to talk to me. I didn't get a chance to really talk to him. But
it was originally a biological girl, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? I knew her.
Wait. You said boy. It's girl to boy or boy to girl?
Girl to boy.
No, she was born a girl. She was actually really cute and everything, but now she's a guy, and she's tall and shit. She's got a beard. And,
you know who the craziest transformation was? That there was a beautiful girl that went to a boy, Chaz Bono. Do you remember how cute that kid was when she was like a little kid on the Sonny and Cher show?
I'm gonna tell you something. I'm telling you, I'm friends with Buck Angel. Buck Angel was, as a girl, she was a model.
Really?
And as a guy, I was in a nightclub with him. And we were standing there. He had a tank top on. He's all tattooed. He was jacked. He's bald-headed with a goatee.
Right.
And he was smoking a fucking cigar. And I'm telling you something. He fights guys and shit, and he wins. He was a woman, but now he's a man. And he was as a woman, he did modeling.
Wow.
You Google him, Buck Angel. Google
I know who Buck Angel is. Yeah, I've seen him. Yeah,
I've seen him.
It's pretty funny.
Nice.
It's weird how people like to go.
Going back to fighting. Yeah. So her niche should be, the guys who are fighting as girls. So you get rid of that.
I like the idea.
I think she should be in a one-woman assassin squad and go after these guys.
Well, she's a maniac. Like, she's a mechanic.
Maybe Mr. G should hold on. Maybe Mr. G should train with Gregg's daughter. That would be a great gimmick, right?
She
Getting
should
ready
train
for the Big Lenny fight.
Yeah, because he's all over the place. He's like the cookies. He's doing Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu.
She could train Mr. G, and then whoever wins the Mr. G Big Lenny fight, maybe she could fight the winner.
Dave, that's a good point. That's why he needs a coach.
Yeah.
Because he's all over the place. So now, Gregg, what's her daughter's name?
Gina.
So now Gina will train Mr. G. Then it would keep him focused. He would be he would just be doing what she's. Instead, now he's 2 nights here, 3 nights there. He's jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
He's Muay Thai.
He's going to burn out.
He's going to be like his cookies. He's going to be too many. He's got to focus.
Too many SKUs.
My daughter is like crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and Mr. G is normal? Come on, it's a perfect combination.
She wouldn't.
They might get along really good.
Yeah, they may understand each other.
She doesn't like any of the bodybuilding. She doesn't. Like if I said to her, "Why don't you do it?" Because she'll. I said to her friend, she about this, and she's like, "Gina's not gonna do that. You know that, right?" Now I said, "Yeah, I know, but I figured I'd say something." But my daughter's like, fuck that shit. You guys are, my daughter's like totally against bodybuilding and everything. She don't want anything to do with any of us, like with us. I couldn't get her to come on the show. Sometimes she's here she lives here with me. I have an apartment downstairs in the house. She'll be here. She won't, if I said to her, come here. She'd be like, fuck that. I'm not going over there. My daughter's like Miss Pothead too.
She doesn't want anything to do with Gregg.
You know what my daughter is?
So wait a minute. She's living there? She pay you rent?
Oh yeah. Listen. I don't want her to pay rent. You know why? Because she wants to do things her way.
Rent, then she's got to go train Mr. G to cut shit like that.
But wait, check it out. She's a female Nate Diaz. Now I know that doesn't sound attractive. You would never know because my daughter has a baby face. She looks like she's very smiley and everything. She's got a bad temper, but she's like Nate Diaz. She fucking on her lunch break she smokes weed. She smokes weed all day, all night. She's like, marijuana is her passion aside from MMA. Hey, do you ever notice that all like MMA guys, like if you look at the UFC guys, they love smoking weed. You watch Mike Tyson on his podcast, Joe Rogan, they smoke weed while they're on their podcast.
Why is that, Gregg?
All they do.
Why is that?
What?
Why is that? Does that calm them down?
Yeah, she says, well, it helps me when I get injured or if I fight. But she's a little bit injured right now. She fought this big black dude, and he slammed her off the mat, and she it kind of hurt her a little bit, but she don't care. She don't give, she'll get up and high five him, but then she'll be walking later like, you know what I mean?
And what does she do for a living? You said she's got a regular job?
Yeah, she works for Curry Honda. She's a mechanic.
Oh, okay.
She's actually, she wants to leave that. She's going to this thing. She's been working it forever.
Maybe she could work with Mr. G making cookies. I don't know.
Now she's not. You don't understand? My daughter is like is very boyish. You know what I mean? Like I told you, if there was a fight out here between two guys, she would jump in the middle and she'd put somebody in a headlock or whatever. You know, she's crazy. She's nuts. She's fucking nuts. You know what I mean? She went to college and she really snapped. She snapped. She's wacky. You know? I would say.
I bet you Mr. G would get along with her, don't you think, John?
Dude.
I think it's a match made in heaven from what I'm
Dude,
hearing.
she's like his brother Bobby. I'm telling you, she's like Nate Diaz. You have no idea. And if you met her,
I want to get her on the show so badly now, John, because he's got me all like juiced up about this whole thing now. I want to ask him questions.
Same here. So like, she won't do it for you. She should do it for us.
Maybe if you decide to stand down for one show, you could go hide in the bathroom while she's on the show.
She wouldn't do it. She's like, I'm not going on your show. Put your fucking bodybuilding. She had a little weed thing in her mouth. She smokes. Listen.
And you don't smoke. You don't smoke weed, right, Greg?
Me? No, I never even tried that shit. I don't. Yeah. Listen to me. She's got my like nut. You know, she's nuts from me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like wacky, crazy shit. You know, but she's totally different in other ways. Like, no matter, like, she likes to drink, she likes to smoke, you know, and she likes to fight. That's what she does. She's a fighter.
But you were a big fighter back in the day, right?
When I was young, I couldn't fucking beat up a marshmallow right now.
Well, yeah, but she's young, Greg. She's young right now. That's why she's got that pugilism from you know.
All of these youngins that are ragging on us as a bunch of old men talking about their ailments and shit. All I can say to you motherfuckers is just wait.
Yeah.
Just wait. If you don't die young, you're gonna be old, and then if you're gonna be old, you're gonna suffer. Trust me.
You know what, John's the funny thing? All the guys that not necessarily. I think people appreciate the knowledge we put out there, but as soon as people start getting a little older, all the competitors, I start getting people contacting me with blood work and tests to analyze, and what do you think about this? The doctor told me this, and I like that because I like helping people. That I'm a problem solver. So, but it's funny because they all hit a certain age, and that's when I get the emails from these guys, and it's because you hit this certain age, and all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, I'm vulnerable. I'm not invincible like I thought I was. What do I do? And the first thing is the doctors scare the crap out of you. So we'll call Dave and let's see what Dave has to say about it. And a lot of times I do have solutions. Sometimes I'm like, you got to listen to what the doctor says, because sometimes they have complicated situations. But a lot of times, sometimes these doctors overreact, or they're I had one guy contact me with his creatinine was like 1.3, which is, or 1.31 or something like that, which is not high. I mean, it's borderline high, but it's for someone who works out and takes creatine supplements, it's really not high. But this doctor had this person like in stage 3 kidney failure already. You know what I mean? And I had to explain to him that that's not the case. Now I've had other people contact me with the 2.5 creatinine, and they're saying this isn't so bad, right? I'm like, nah, that's pretty bad. You got to bring that down. So there's different, but we all hit that stage where all of a sudden one day we wake up and we get a blood test back and we're like, I was fine 6 months ago. What the heck's going on now? And that's how it happens, But
I get this one. Tell me if you get this. A guy says, "Let me send you my blood work. I want to start testing growth hormone." And so my first, anytime somebody comes to me with, I want to do this, I want to do that, I go, well, the first thing we got to do is look at your blood work, because I want to see, number one, are you healthy? Number two, what your normal levels are, and give us a baseline, and we go from there. So this guy comes back and he's got protein in his urine. He's excreting protein in his urine. It's like 70 times what the normal range is.
Right.
And I said, before you do anything, I mean, that's concerning. I would want to know why you're excreting so much protein, into your urine. I think, you should, at least see your doctor about that. You know what his reply text is? So it's okay, I can start growth in GH, right?
Yeah. Oh, shit. I've had people say that. They don't give a fuck. They're nuts.
I have a guy who's a good client of mine. He's a good guy. And some guy, and he's always like, I want to go on the conservative side of using gear, and I respect that. And he said to me, I had some guy telling me in the gym, he's got all this gear. He's not going to be using it anymore. It's very high quality. He says, if I listen to him and take this cycle, even though I know I told you I really didn't do that much, I could put 25 pounds of muscle on. And he reads me the cycle, including anadrol and dianabol. Now, this guy can't eat enough food to begin with. He's got an appetite issue. I'm like, number one, you'll never be able to eat all your meals if you add anadrol into your program, okay? So, and you say you don't want to use anything toxic, which is that's like the most toxic drug possible. So, and anyone who guarantees you 25 pounds of muscle, unless your name is Lavroni or Big Ramy, don't believe anything they say, because no one can guarantee you just from taking a drug cycle that you're going to gain 20 pounds. I wish it was that easy, because there would be a lot more big guys walking around on a regular basis. So, but this is the mindset, and there's a lot of guys out there that will perpetrate, hey, I got the secret formula with the secret drug stash because I know this is good. If you do what I tell you, I'll get you to the Olympia stage, and that's the...
Yeah, but then you're Tim Belknap. The next day you look like shit.
Yeah,
like
of course.
Tim Belknap would fucking be jacked,
yeah,
and it'd be 25 pounds lighter the day after a show. You're like, what the fuck happened to him?
Well, you could gain 25 pounds of water overnight, exactly, is what I'm saying.
But Dave, these guys don't realize everybody wants to be fucking big, but they don't realize it does come as a fucking cost, and you're not going to be like that forever,
How many people can you say you've actually seen put 25 pounds on in like 8 to 12 weeks of muscle?
No, it's
Lavroni, no after not training for 6 months. That's it.
It's no such thing. You're gonna get fucking, you're gonna kill yourself doing it inside. See, they think because you see bodybuilders on the outside because they got abs and they're built and they're on stage. When they're on stage, they're at their most unhealthiest. You know what I mean? You see them backstage. They're laying on the floor like they're dead. They're breathing fucking heavy from just walking on stage. They're already starting to huff and puff. That amount of muscle that we have when we're jacked is not healthy for us. I mean, I'm not putting bodybuilding down. I love bodybuilding. I loved being a freak myself and love seeing freak. But the reality is, young people are fucking crazy, and they want what they want. They want it now. If I can gain 25 pounds overnight and look like Big Ramy, I want that. I don't care what the drug does to you.
Yeah.
I'll deal with the side effects. I don't give a shit.
I used to eat so much food when I was at 300 pounds. What I would have to do to put my shoes on is I'd have to blow all my air out, lean over it, tie my shoes real quick, and then take a deep breath, because
then you're fucking lightheaded for like
absolutely. Yeah.
For 5 seconds you're like this. It's like you were spinning around.
Yeah, I was like holding my breath while all the air was out, so I had enough room to bend over just to get my shoes tied, and I was flexible too.
Yeah, dude, let me tell you, you were an athlete when you were young, so
Yeah.
I could have done anything when I was young. I could walk up the side of a wall. I used to climb buildings. I was very athletic. Bodybuilding killed all of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know guys don't believe that shit. They think like, guys jacked, he's built, that must be super athlete. But it's not the case. You know what I mean?
You know what? You want to hear how sick this was? I actually hated the fact when I was first started bodybuilding that I was able to do like 1 million pull-ups and I could do finger pull-ups, because I was like, I'm too light. I don't look like these guys with massive amounts of muscle. I'm like a rock climber. I'm like, this is, even though I'm ripped and I got veins,
Me too.
I don't look anything remotely like a bodybuilder. I hated it. I wanted to be this bulky guy. I wanted to walk with my legs, out to the side because my thighs were so big that they would hit together, which ultimately I did achieve that. But it took a real long time, and it's really weird, because once I got to that point, I couldn't do anything athletically really after that. I couldn't run. I couldn't do anything.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I used to be able to throw a baseball from center field and throw it over the backstop. The kids used to get pissed when I did that shit. And I couldn't fucking throw. I'm like, I throw a baseball now, it goes 3 feet and falls. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's you lose your athletic ability. That's why Maurice Pujanowski had to lose like 75 pounds to fight MMA.
Right.
Because I remember
what do you think those guys
Craig
like
Titus,
Eddie Hall is fighting Hafthor Bjornsson, the mountain?
Yeah.
Those guys have lost a bunch of weight. They're supposed to fight, what, in September?
Yeah, but they fight a guy with skill. Look at fucking Pujanowski. He fought he fought a Tim Silva who had no build at all, had like a dad bod, droopy shoulders,
right?
And he beat the shit out of fucking Pudzianowski.
Right.
It's a different
animal.
Well,
you know who also did that? What's his name? Robert Bernacka was doing some fighting in Poland too. He was fighting, and he was big. He was fighting these guys just because they wanted to see this monster guy fighting in the ring.
I like Robert, but if you watch one of them fights, you know what I mean? It was
Greg. You are either a puncher or you're not. There's no exercise. Right. There's no training. There's nothing you can do. No. If you can't punch, you're not gonna. You remember
Fran Volpe? You remember Fran Volpe?
Of course, I grew up with Fran.
Fran Volpe had a knockout punch. Like, if he hit you once, you were out cold. I mean, that's a God-given gift, don't you think?
I know this guy. I spar with him sometimes. He's got a fucking left hand like an anvil. When that thing hits you, and this guy, he's unassuming. He's got big wrists. If you look at his wrists, they're big. But the rest of him, he's a wiry little guy. If he hits you with that left, I don't give a fuck who you are. Yeah. You're getting hip replacement surgery the next day. He is brutal. And it's there's nothing you can do. If you are not a puncher, if you can't land it, you're not going to ever, no matter how much weight you lift, no matter how hard you train, it don't matter. If you that's just the way it is. It's like throwing a ball. I mean, if you can throw a ball, you can throw a ball.
Like hitting a baseball, right?
Yeah.
You could Let me tell you something. That's how my daughter got into that, because she was up in college and she would fight. She would get in these bar fights and shit. And she'd knock out a guy. And they were like, that's how she got into the bare knuckle part of everything. Right. You know, then her friends got her into all this shit. But the thing
Can you imagine how embarrassing, John, that must be, getting knocked out by a girl in a bar? That's got to be the biggest blow to your ego.
No, well, you know what
that could change it. That could turn you transgender for sure after that, you know.
No, but there's a psychological element to it, because your boy's not supposed to hit a girl.
Right.
Right. And, I mean, sometimes guys are sucker punched or they don't expect it. Just like, on that right now they're talking about all the savages that went down to spring break. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they there's a big thing going on in Miami right now, and they said a girl walked up to one of the big fucking cops in Florida and threw a right hook and fucking knocked them out. And the cop was laid out there like this.
I didn't even hear
that. By a girl. Anybody hits you, Dave, your little boy or one of your daughters, if you're standing there, if they cold clock you in the jaw, you go, holy shit, that fucking hurt.
When he cold cock you in the nuts.
My 1-year-old threw my cell phone at my lip and opened it up like someone hit me with a right cross,
And then she said, "Fuck with me again."
Kids, especially when you're groin level, you gotta watch out.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
No, you gotta. But I don't know.
Anyway,
whatever you got, it's got to be in your hands. No matter what it is, you have to have it naturally. Yeah. Even like art. Both my parents were artists. I could fucking, I'm very good artist. It's got to be something. But I can't I can't hit a nail in a 2x4 without it bending and shit. You know what I mean? That's why I like to say when John does all that stuff that he does, like builds all these things, and I seen bathrooms he's done, pictures he's put on the internet, and I say, holy fuck, that was in John's hands. You know what I mean? I don't care if he had an uncle that made him work with him when he was a kid or not. You still have to have that in your hands. You know what I mean?
John built the RxMuscle studios back in New York. It was gorgeous. It was phenomenal.
I know. I've been in that.
Yeah,
studio.
you were there. Now, I want to bring up one final topic. We got to wrap this up. We've been going a while, but did you know? I forgot to bring it up last week. Andreas Munzer, I believe it was last week, had died 25 years ago. Last week. Can you believe that?
I feel like it's 30.
25 years. Feels like it was yesterday. Do we?
Really? I feel like it's been
people
long.
Bring up those things and you go, holy shit, that was 25 years ago.
25 years ago.
Yeah, wow.
I went to school with this kid, Steven Svalok, in med school, and he's actually a plastic surgeon in Hollywood now. Makes a lot of money. Beverly Hills, excuse me. And he looked exactly like Andreas Munzer. Matter of fact, we used to call him Andreas Munzer. And when Andreas Munzer died, because, the guy was probably the most shredded guy of all time. I don't think I've ever seen a guy, I used to get hard. This guy made me look like I was smooth. That's how
Ridiculous,
dry, gnarly hard. That really hit home, I think, for a lot of IFBB pros when they heard that he passed. And I don't even know what the official death. Do we even know what he officially died of? I mean, I know he had some crazy cycle he was on, but was it organ failure?
I think liver.
I actually reported on it.
Oh, you did?
For MD, yeah. According to what I was able to find out, he was on Cytidrin, a tremendous amount of Cytidrin. And Cytidrin, you know, is anti-cortisol.
That's what I heard.
And the amount that he was taking, probably in conjunction with everything else he was taking, caused him to bleed out. He was just hemorrhaging from everywhere.
Oh, because it inhibits clotting factors, Cytidrin,
right.
Yeah.
So they opened him up, and there was just blood everywhere.
He probably had an ulcer or something like that, and I bet you. And
I heard it was his liver.
His organs were bleeding.
Wow.
Right, his liver, Dave. It was his liver. I think.
Well, you know what? A lot of these bodybuilders have cysts on their liver, and if it ruptures and you don't have clotting factors because you're on Cytidrin, you bleed to death. Basically,
yeah.
I mean,
he bled out.
Right.
Basically, what happened? He bled out internally. They closed him up and just said he's done.
I mean, thank God we don't see cases like that, John, anymore. Like where people like actually kill themselves from the drugs that they're taking. I mean, directly. You know, Benaziza was a disaster because of diuretics. You know, that was horrible. That was well, according to Milos, that was the paramedics who really killed him because they gave him the wrong treatment. They should have given him Lasix, and they gave him like potassium, IV, right, which killed him.
Potassium sparing.
Yeah. So I mean, aside from that, I mean, Munzer was the first person really that we were exposed to that actually physically killed himself from something he was taking for bodybuilding. I mean,
and when you put that into perspective of how many people practice this sport and how many practice it at an elite level, when does that ever happen?
No.
When else has that happened?
Yeah.
Well, you could say, "Oh, Dallas McCarver." No, Dallas. That was not directly a result of what he was taking.
No, he had a blockage in his coronary artery.
Yeah, but if he wasn't taking what he was taking, he might have lived longer.
He would have lived longer if he would have gone for a cardiac CT scan. I mean, he could have gotten a stent put in there. So that's not even a good example, Dallas McCarver.
Plus, not for nothing, but didn't that guy that he was living with there, Lanahan or whatever his name is, didn't he call up on the phone and tell 911 he took like a fucking, I don't know, 50 to 100 IUs of growth and shit like that, or no, insulin. I mean, all that, you can't take that.
Yeah, but Dallas died of a heart attack because of a blockage in his coronary artery. Whether you want to debate what caused it or not, that's a long-term type of that's a genetic situation.
I brought it up because it is a bad example.
Right. I'm talking about a cause and effect. I took this drug for bodybuilding and it killed me.
And it killed me.
Yeah.
When else has that happened? It just hasn't.
What about Troy? Big T. You remember Troy?
Yeah. What was his official cause of death?
He died. Everybody's like, oh, he had a bad cold and shit. No, he didn't. I was with him.
Was it insulin?
And I think I told you the story, Dave. I was with him in a fucking diner, and he's drinking. All of a sudden, the first thing we do, he gets in a diner. He starts pouring fucking sugar in the water, opening up sugar packets. And I go, what the fuck are you doing? And he goes, oh, I just took a shot of insulin in the car. I got to get the sugar in me. He goes, I got to tell you a crazy story. You're not going to believe this. He goes, I went home after a workout. He goes, I took a shot of insulin. I started putzing around the house. I had empty stomach, no food, nothing. So I started cooking food. And the next thing I know, I wake up, I'm in the hospital. And I go, what? And he goes, yeah. He goes, I went into like an insulin reaction. He goes, I fainted. And my girlfriend had just come home and the fucking house was on fire because the shit he was cooking on the stove. So then he goes, now I try to be a little smarter and I'll take my insulin. I quickly drink, some sugar. So then they found him in his house. Like 6 months later, I get a phone call. Yeah, Troy, Big T's dead. And I'm like, what? He fucking died. He had a an iced tea in his hand, and he was sitting. They found him sitting on his steps inside his house with an iced tea in his hand. And some of the guys like, oh no, he had a bad cold and shit. I'm like, dude, nobody dies from a bad cold. He died. I know. I was with him. He was drinking that fucking iced tea because he probably did the same thing. He probably took a shot of insulin. Fucked around.
There's a lot of diabetics believe it or not, they get high off of low blood sugars. Like they run low blood sugars and they actually get like a little bit of a high from it. And I don't know if that was the case. Maybe he felt like the more insulin he took, the bigger he would get, which is ridiculous.
He was the first time he was in a coma. It was so bad that
I wonder why he continued doing it, because insulin doesn't build muscle. It helps push ingredients into the muscle. But if you go super low blood sugar, you're obviously, that's not helping you more. So
I don't know.
That's the take-home message for all these youngins that are complaining about us old men. We're fucking old for a reason, motherfucker.
Hello, goodbye. Sorry, not sorry. Listen,
exactly.
You know what it is? These guys, they go to the gym. They'll do the fasted cardio. They're fasted. I woke up, I go without eating and shit. I wish they'd brush their teeth because I could smell that shit in the gym. But, it smells like fucking you walk in a salami factory. But anyway, when you go in the gym in the morning and you're on a fucking treadmill and you see some old guy and your fucking gym just like reeks. Anyway, it fucking smells like salami. But, they go in the gym, they do the fasted cardio, they do this fasted workout, they go home. And the first thing these idiots think, well, I got to get my insulin level, and they take a shot instead of eating something.
I never understood why people take pre-workout insulin. It's the stupidest thing of all time. I'll say it till the end of my days. Dumbest thing of all time.
The dumbest.
Yeah.
I don't think you should fuck around with insulin unless you need it. You know what I mean?
Right, but you don't take it before you go work out, which is the workout is dropping your blood sugar to begin with, and then you're going to take insulin on top of that. Insulin doesn't build muscle, guys. It draws nutrients into the cells. You take it after you work out if you want, with your post-workout meal.
Why
it's a cell volumizer.
Why does Milos disagree with that?
Because Milos has this concept of constantly guzzling sugar while you're working out. Like it's going to drive it into the cells. How about you fill the cells up before you get to the gym? And then go work out, and then replenish the stuff after the workout. Isn't that a little safer?
But Dave, isn't that what they do out there in Oxygen Gym? That's one of their fucking.
I don't know. I don't know if that's
fast carbs. You need fast carbs. Don't drink amino acid during workout.
You can do that fine, but just don't take 100 IUs of insulin before you work out. That's all. You can eat carbs all you want.
I don't know, dude. I never took insulin, never took growth hormone or IGF. I was just an androgen junkie.
Right.
I loved the fucking androgens. I loved that androgen.
I took it one time. I remember I was at the RxMuscle studios in the warehouse.
Yeah.
And I took too much, and I'm sitting there, and we're in the warehouse, Greg. There's nothing there. Okay, there's supplements and boxes, and
I've been there.
My eyes are starting to twitch, and I'm like, and I'm going, oh fuck. The only thing that was there was, what was your secretary's name? I forgot, that crazy girl that used to clean my house.
Nicole.
She had 3 bags of instant oatmeal on the. I'm like ripping them open.
Yeah, man. I don't know, bro. I never got into that insulin shit or any of that.
Scary. I thought I was gonna die.
I sold growth hormone, but I never took. I just like taking fucking. I don't know. I'm an androgen junkie. Hey, speaking of drugs, I wanted to ask Dave something. Yeah. Dave, you don't do the TRT, right? You do the HCG once in a
while.
I
do an HCG shot. Yeah, once a week.
You think that's better than TRT or no?
I feel better on it. Yeah, I do feel. I don't feel like I'm holding water. I feel like I feel good. My levels are not as high, but I do feel good on it. Like I get like a pick me up from it.
So. Yeah, I was just wondering.
All right, we got to wrap this up. So the fight is going to be billed, according to Mr. G, Yukon Mr. G Cornelius versus Big Bully Lenny the Abominable. Coming soon to a theater near you. I'm Dave Palumbo. Guys, thank you for all the well wishes. Greg, John, thanks for sharing all your stories this time. And we'll see you all next week.
All right. I love you guys.